Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Zwift Community Lab broadcast of the Zwift Racing League presented by WTRL. Nathan Garrett, Anna Russell next to me. She's got her whiteboard ready to go bright and early this morning coming out of New Zealand. I appreciate Anna. Anna is on these days is now pulling double duty and getting up super early, Anna. But it was this course kept things pretty interesting. It seemed like an APAC, and I have a feeling it's going to be very similar here on Champs Elysees for 6 laps for both the men's and the women's.
Yeah, a lot more interesting than I had thought. Sometimes you think with just these sort of flat sprint races, it could just be a bit of a blob moving to the finish line. But no, there were early attacks. There were a 3-man breakaway where a couple of them made it to the line. The steamroller, which we'll talk about later in the show, not as powerful on cobbles. So not as much of a game changer as we saw a few weeks ago on the dirt of Watopia. So yeah, pretty good racing. I think first lap, always going to be fast. People are going for that fastest time segment. And then after that, really opens it up for some team tactics.
Yeah, it really does. And I think the sprints in there being so close together, I mean, there's not a whole lot of time between each one of the sprints. There's also a lot of opportunities for power-ups out here that are very close together. We saw some uses of power-ups in the B race for APAC, actually for the men, that were kind of interesting, where people were rolling the dice a little bit, getting a little bit of extra. We saw what I coined a little bit the double power-up, where somebody got an arrow going right to the line, used it, going right to the lap finish banner, and then very shortly after that, used another arrow that they got at the lap finish banner. And they could almost go for a triple, actually, if they really hit if they hit it coming across the sprint line as well and get a breakaway situation. So it does open up for a little bit of nice roll of the dice. Let's take a really quick look at the course here. Men are out on course in about 15 seconds or so. We'll take a look at standings as they get out on course as well. This is what we're looking at. Champs Elysees, you can see, obviously, it's going to be the main climb out there that also kind of involves the sprint in there as well. Sounds like Anna's got child duty as well. It looks like she's got a child dropout. We'll deal with that, and she'll be dealing with that. It looks like for just a minute or two, but the men are jumping out on course though at this moment, as you do see the course here, and then this is the profile that we have as well. So Champs Elysees here with Lutis Sprint and 6.6 kilometers in total. So this is the situation that we have for that. As you can see, it is a pretty good grind into the sprint. So it does favor somebody who's got a little bit of climbing legs on them on the day out here today. Let's go ahead and jump right down into the images, though, as the men have jumped out on course here. Looking through to see, also we'll jump into the standings and see how they are. We'll be covering the Bs today in Division 1. Division 1B is going to be who we are on. But we'll go ahead and take a quick look also at how things are standing with the A's in the overalls at this point, just to give everybody a heads up as to, and give the shout outs there as well. It's going to be Coalition Aurora here at the top of this Div EMEA South Division 1A, 96 points. SZ Yirmer there with 89. Foodsray XO with 89, tied for second and third in the A's. GFTBE there at 84 points in fourth there. Chevy Chasers there at 73 points in fifth. It's going to be R and K, the Rowan King Eagles in sixth. Kirchner Flying Bees in seventh. The Zwift Kids in eighth. Belgian Zwift Riders Eagles 3 in ninth. And then Fusion Development with 61 points, currently sitting in 10th place. I believe we got Anna back. Is the dropout all good to go at this point, Anna?
Sorry, just a little mum flat there. The one of the children woke up a touch too early, but here we are. We're all good now, and we'll go through some of these results as we watch the racing. But it looks as though the men are just coming around that first lap. Down the bottom of the course, this is actually a great area if you're looking for an early attack. When you come out of the tunnel here, it's about 1 kilometer to the start-finish banner, and then, like we talked about earlier, great use of a double power-up if you can do it. So drop a power-up, get a new one, drop it straight away, and carry that all the way to the line. We saw that working as well, so really, really good tactic.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see how this ends up playing out here. This section right here, when we do get into that final lap, is going to make things very interesting. The little kick out of this underground can be an opportunity to try and get away. So watch on that. Also on the lap, if somebody really wanted to try and stretch things out, which we haven't seen done yet today, but a lot of times in racing, it's the second, third go that really makes things break apart. And you could send a teammate up the road, make somebody chase, kind of take some sting out of the legs, and then attack again into the sprint section, try and get away as well. So we'll see if anybody does use this section a little bit more to a team's advantage. Now, this is the current standings for the category that we are currently looking at. This is going to be the men's mixed EMEA South Division 1B current standings of the category we are covering today. Vikings, Leipner, followed up by Vegan Bobcats, first and second place there. Leipner does have a little bit of a gap there with 92 points to the 84. Rowan King Rhinos tied for fourth there with 79. Zwift Scotland, B1. It looks like is there as well for that fourth place. Only 1 point behind it is going to be the SOW Gruppetto. Be on the watch out for each one of these names here in the sprints, as well as the final results out here today, as well as on the right-hand side of the screen as we start to see how things play out today. Team CLS Sneaky Bees in sixth. It's going to be Kirschmer Drafting Bees there in seventh. Only 1 point separating them for sixth and seventh place. DZR Pain Cave Pundits in eighth. It's going to be Furre Bourgogne. I think I did okay with that one. And then ZESP is with España. Zarbos there. They are in 10th place. Go ahead and give us what's happening with the C's here, Anna.
Looks like Cryogen Puy de Dome in first, 1 point separating them from the two Gazelles Jerez. I may have to take a little break if we get too close to the sprint on our live footage. Angry Birds in third there, RMACC 45 CDO in fourth, very tight in that top four battle. Kirchmar Bumblebees in fifth, Zwift Scotland in sixth, DZR Fast and Fun in seventh, R&K Vixens in eighth, Giant Camden Man, Jalapenos in ninth, and TCG Chumay in 10th. Ooh.
And this rider here looks like probably a little bit of a connection issue happening. Usually that means that the game does not know exactly where the rider is at the moment. It's and continually correcting for where the rider's at. And that makes it look like the rider is confused about where they want to be on course. Usually that's a network connection. That's usually what's happening there, is that their network is a little bit off, and the game continues to guess as to where the rider ought to be at that moment. Does look like a connection did settle right on down. And his avatar is also settling down a little bit as well. Jelston now to the front here. The Danish rider, a little bit of kick. This is going to be DZR. That's the DZR kick. And he's using a very early aero power. We have seen, though, in APAC that this usually did not work out, that the riders who timed it a little bit later ended up winning out. But these riders seem to have a little bit more steam for a longer attack here. We'll see if the pack, though, comes on through, Anna.
I think the pack may come on through. That was a very early use of a power-up and a very early attack. But look at that. Smeets there coming through with some orange numbers. We are watching the B category, so the high power numbers may be a little low. But look at Mersh there, 11.2 from the Venerit team. So let's have a look if he's going to catch. I don't think he will. I think this is it.
Ooh,
I think
Fisher!
Smeets has taken it very close on the line. Very close. Smeets and then Fisher. Very close in second. Oh,
Smeets
that was a good
early
attack.
Yeah, very good there by Smeets to try and get away. The very, very early attack that started, as we saw, did not end up working out too well. Smeets over the top. Fisher there from Kirchmer, they're able to take it down. And as we do see in the overall standings at this moment, Kirchmer, they need all the points that they can get. Sitting at 72, they're going to be watching CLS for that 6 points, that sixth place, excuse me, as they're 1 point behind them at this point. But, a good day on the sprints here could bump them up a solid few spots, as they could be hunting down fifth or even fourth place if Zwift Scotland or the Gruppetto aren't able to hang on quite as well. Kirchmer with quite a few on the front, too. I don't think they're messing around. You do see these kits now with the yellow and black that they do use in game. DZR looking to go with them. And a little bit early, though. I think there's plenty of energy in a lot of legs here. So I have a feeling that perhaps getting a little bit excited. You get a little bit of wiggle room, and sometimes you can kind of make it go to your head a little bit.
Oh, for sure. I do want to note that we do have USA Esports Cycling representative Christy Harrison Tracy logged in and watching the feed at the moment. She is the 1 kilometer attack queen. Always goes quite early. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, if she wants to jump on in and give some tips to anyone of how they make that happen, it is a possibility on this course. It does lend itself to that 1K breakaway. So the right person is watching, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. Loving to see her in the channel and in the chat with a big hello, Christy Harrison Tracy. It looks like she's been racing a lot outside as well recently and getting some pretty awesome results. I want to know if I want to know how maybe we need to get her on board with a little bit of an interview to see how it transfers over and she's been racing for so long on the platform and it's such a high level on the platform. And my experience of going from the Zwift platform to racing, that I actually found that there were some things I learned about my body, at least about what my body could actually handle or do, that did transfer over to outside. I'd love to know, because it's been a lot of gravel and road, it looks like, that she's been up to. So definitely go check that all out there, though, coming in from Christy at one of the top esport racers there in the world on the women's side of things. The D category, though, let's take a look at these current standings. Then we'll jump back on over the Bs and keep that up on the screen here for most of the race. But it is RAB Haydock's there with 99 points, followed by Adam Racing Team Fusion at 92. BRT Draconas N2 and Draconas 1. Or just the Draconas. The Dragons, they're BRT, they're third and fourth with 88 and 81 points respectively. Two guys, Manchik, they're tied with the Giant Camden Holy Rollers for fifth and sixth at 80 points. Rowan Kingsloss, our FCC Delta Squad, they're seventh and eighth. And then Giant Camden Spokes and Mirrors in ninth at 60 points. And EETC D1. That's the situation currently in the D categories for this South Division 1D. It can get a little confusing with all the different categories, divisions, and I mean, for our viewers here, just the reason that is there are thousands and thousands of racers. I mean, it's not a bad problem necessarily to have with how many racers we have. I think maybe our background data man, Martin, can let us know on the day at this point into season 3 how many racers there actually are. I think we were pushing 7,000 to 8,000 last season. I mean, even coming into the spring and the amount of participation here, the amount of divisions we have to separate everything out, it's pretty amazing.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think I'm going to hazard a guess. Martin is probably going to prove me wrong. I think over 12,000 in this season. So hugely popular, just massive. Now, Nathan, is now the time to pull out the whiteboard analysis on the coefficient of rolling resistance.
Let's geek it up. And I'm on. You're a co-commentator at this point. Is it maybe a little bit more geeky than the usual with right alongside you? I mean, that maybe don't have a whiteboard. Nice. I probably have a chalkboard with like old school chalk and erasers and things like that. I'm not quite to your technology level, maybe, but I'll listen up a little and maybe even be able to engage it a little bit closer here, because I think this whole idea that you jumped into with the CRR, is pretty interesting.
Okay, so CR, the coefficient of rolling resistance. The reason I started looking into this for this race is because the steamroller was very controversial the first time we used it back on the Watopia dirt climbs coming out of the Italian villas. And reason is one, it was dirt, and two, it was uphill and quite a high uphill gradient, around 5%. And so that made that power up massively effective because it basically flattened out the road. Now in Zwift, I got my hands on the algorithms around the road surfaces, and the lower number the better. The rolling resistance of road wheels on pavement, if we look at that as what the steamroller does, is 0.004. On dirt, it's 0.025. Now that's actually a massive difference between those two. Whereas you look at cobbles, 0.0065. So ignore the numbers and just take from that the fact that using a steamroller on cobbles has a small impact compared to using a steamroller on dirt. If we look at the watts saved, on dirt, you're using about double the watts if you've got road wheels compared to if you had, say, gravel wheels or mountain bike wheels. If you're on the cobbles, it's only about 20 watts. So there's the difference, and that's why you're going to see in this racing here, the steamroller nowhere near as much of an effect. And actually, when you're coming into those sprints, still best to use the aero, in my opinion.
I'd have to agree. In this situation, because of the difference in rolling resistance, that is not that much on these cobbles, it's going to give you a little bit. And you made a really good point that the best section, if you do happen to grab that steamroller, is going to probably be on the downhills. Because it's going to help you to roll away. It's going to help because you can kind of double down or even triple down in a way that the algorithm will work the best with that specific power up. The downhill coming off of the sprint is probably going to be the best section for the steamroller. I definitely agree with that. We actually saw that exact situation work out for the breakaway in the men's Bs in the APAC. We have a little bit of a push here on, though, it looks like, from Harry now from KC, the Kirchner Bs now, the German rider, 466, and really pressing on the pedals here. He's got a 3-second gap. We saw this work earlier. It looked like he had a steamroller going through the lap finish banner. We'll see what he picked up coming on through now. It does look like he's got to back off. There's the initial attack. He's got 4 seconds. Now, speaking to the critical, rolling, is it critical rolling resistance? Is that
coefficient?
Coefficient rolling resistance.
Yes.
So that is a pretty big difference. 0.25. Right, you said it was 0.025, right? 0.025 versus 0.0044. We're talking 1,000th, versus 100th.
Yeah.
That's a huge jump when it comes to using that on dirt versus using it on cobbles. So, I definitely think today not nearly as big of a difference there, because 1/100th is pretty huge on dirt. On here, not so much. Now, we do see it being used, though, from Zwift Scotland on the front. Coming into this first tier, it is a 2-tier climb, though, with the sprint at the end. They'll be coming through that green in just a moment. And Struthers leading out Loden. Loden, I think, is just hanging under the wheel for a moment. And we're going to see a second kick in just a moment for the actual sprint, I think, as that's just the lead out. And it's going to be Bradbury now. But no, here comes Team CLS.
Yeah, look at that.
8 watts per kilogram. Just gone. And I'm loving this kit here coming from Davies as well.
It's fantastic. Yeah, love it. Where did he come from? Just came right from the back. It must have been a drafting power up he dropped somewhere along the way there. And you can see there's steamroller being dropped, nowhere near as powerful. A couple of arrows, very close battle for third, but that looks like Davies first, Danielson second across the line. But wow, if we can get a replay of that, that would be amazing. I just want to see where in the pack he came from. We did have a chat last night with Katie, who is a extremely good in real life, Olympian level sprinter and track rider around sprinting tactics. So yeah, she's a big fan of dropping that draft and sprinting from mid-pack, and looks like that worked there. Perfect.
Yeah, it was really well timed there, actually. And I have a feeling that it was because the timing there from the gradient coming down where he picked up the most speed, because it's like you kind of grind uphill and then there's a little bit of a drop in the gradient and your avatar will pick up a ton of speed right there. And then if you sit in on the wheels through that speed pickup time and just kind of wait around, you'll actually slow back down a little bit when it kicks again. And then if you're just following wheels, you're not using that momentum. It looked like to me like he actually used the momentum that came off of that gradient drop and then came through up into the gradient that came back at him. And the speed was already there. He just carried it right on through the climb, the second half of that climb. Very, very well timed there from the Team CLS rider.
Yeah, I do want to touch on bike selection as well, with a little bit of a sort of deep dive into that. So we're seeing a lot of Trons, or we're seeing disc wheels. Again, talking with Katie last night in the APAC commentary, we had a good chat around when you're going into a sprint, do you put it into a really big gear where your acceleration may be a bit slower because you need to get on top of it, but once you're on top of it, you're going to be accelerating really fast because you're in a bigger gear, versus going into a smaller gear, you can accelerate quickly because you can get over fast, but once you're up to speed, you're not going to be as fast because you're in a smaller gear. So I think this also, I was just thinking about it last night as I was trying to get to sleep, is I think that's sometimes where you see the difference with a Tron and a disc wheel. So personally, I would probably ride a Tron. I just don't have that huge power to be able to get over the gear as fast. And the Tron doesn't, it accelerates a little bit faster than the disc wheel, but once it's up to speed is a little bit slower than the disc wheel. If you're a high power rider, really good at sprinting, then I think disc is better. You can probably get over that high gear and the acceleration of the disc will be faster. I don't know your thoughts, Nathan. Maybe I'm pulling this out of thin air, but I think that's what I'd look at with bike selection.
I mean, it depends on how the sprint is playing out too, and who's with you. And in my opinion, I mean, I've found that you find the perfect gearing that you get the best of both worlds. I used to win a lot of sprints with a little bit bigger gear, try to grind through, keep the power really, really high, or get the highest end of my power at a little bit later in the sprint, not the initial kick. I found that the initial kick and the response to it is so incredibly quick on Zwift now, though. And I don't think that's really actually changed too much. And also the other thing is when you do go, you need to get by these avatars pretty quickly now with the new draft, pack dynamics. For me, it's about being in a gear that can follow the wheels until the exact moment that I want to go. Because when you hit the front on Zwift now, you need to stay on the front and come across the line. And the timing has to be so incredibly perfect. And the way that you gain speed through the pack now, passing avatars too, it's definitely really, for me at least, finding a pretty low gear. I'd say my 15 or 16 is where I go a lot of times now. Whereas before I would be 14, 13 instead. So really, 15, 16, 17, even depending, especially on if it's a little bit of an uphill now, definitely coming down a little bit lower and getting that really high as quickly as possibly as can. Going for 1100, 1200 watts for me is the aim, and then hold on to the line. That's where I'm at this point. I really think that's the way to be sprinting it these days, but the timing is where it's at, because you could get that initial kick. If it doesn't get a gap for you and somebody's on your wheel and they went with you at 900, 800, well, maybe not 900, but maybe more like 600, 700 amongst the men, and they are able to grab onto that wheel, they're going to come right by you if the timing is not absolutely perfect. It's so thread the needle for sprints nowadays, especially in the top level amongst the men and the women.
Yeah, and I think that's where I'm not great. I cannot time that sprint. I get so
well. You could do more of a
nervous.
like you could do, and I think the bigger geared sprint like that could maybe doesn't do that initial just boom. You know what I mean? But is like, well, you go from a little further out and try and hold on. It usually nowadays isn't going to work out too well, it seems like. But if you have a smaller group, you may be able to pull off. And also, if the pack has got some infighting going on a little bit and you go from 500, that might be more of the place with that bigger gear. But that's just my opinion. It might work out differently with who you're going to the line with, though, too. That's also a question that has to be answered.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the only time I've gotten close to a sprint is actually having a team lead out where we sort of upped the pace, kept it high so no one could attack. People were kind of getting stuck on the draft and then just sprinting over top of that. So that sort of strategy works, I think, when you're a non-specialist sprinter. When you're looking at people who just have the raw watts here, yeah, you're right, Nathan. I think timing, probably bike choice isn't as important for them because they're going to push those high watts and accelerate very fast regardless. But it has been interesting that chat about Cadence. I see here we're watching Fisher, 75 RPM, really slow, so really grinding it out. And I think Zwift tends to do that a little bit. People have quite a low cadence when you're looking at those in the top left-hand side of the screen, compared to, say, in real life. When I watched the Giro prologue, the individual time trial at the start, cadences of up around 105 to 110 for a 8-kilometer full power effort. So, yeah, really interesting here with the esport. I don't know if it kind of tends towards people just pushing that low cadence because it just generates high power.
Yeah, I think there may be something a little bit to that. I did notice that indoors I may have a little bit lower cadence. But the interesting thing I've noticed is that it transfers to having a good cadence outside a lot of times. If I just I don't know. It was really interesting how, because of the consistency of pedaling, it didn't necessarily make it so that my cadence went down outside. It was actually something that one of my viewers on my personal Twitch channel became a good friend, and we ended up riding together outside. He's like, dude, on stream you have a really, but like outside you're like 95, 100. It looks like, what's going on here? And I was like, I don't know, like the indoor riding and the consistency of the pedaling actually transferred over to raising my cadence, even though, and I did have cadence focused intervals and cadence focused rides and stuff at times indoors in order to try and make it better. So, as long as there's that in there, I think some riders, and also it is rider to rider, but I've definitely seen a lot of riders with a lower cadence. And I think it's during these times also where things aren't really happening, so things do definitely back right on down, and they don't necessarily keep it very high during those sections. Coming into lap number 3, though, here we go with the Bs. It's going to be Frazier again from SDW trying to maybe fade climb a little bit here. Z Scott tends to be attacking very early, but not really grabbing any points, or at least not getting into these 1, 2, or 3 spots for these sprints. Just trying to keep things very difficult, but we'll see if Kirchner come on through again here. Team CLS as well. They took the last one. Where are they at? Z Scott with Hershey. Monroe sitting in as well. CLS not in the picture at this point. Nordstrom, though, from SZ. Is Ryder going to hold on to this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to hold on, to be honest. I think there'll be some fast sprinters coming over again, maybe from that sort of third of the pack. We're seeing some drafting power-ups been dropped there and a steamroller, but a few years, here we go. The drafting power-up from mid-pack, that's just looking very good. Looks like LeBourbon Fisher again. Perfect use, great timing, using the drafting power up to perfection. Steamroller won't catch them up here. Loden isn't going to get on his wheel. I think that's it. Fisher getting it again. Great work there with the power-ups and the timing.
Ovenden almost from Team Vegan, not quite able to make it happen. Loden does hang on for that second place, it looked like. But I think Ovenden ended up in the third, maybe fourth place. And now we'll see. We will have the preems results, everybody, at the end of the broadcast. Apologies that we cannot have them as live data, but we will have them at the end of the broadcast. We'll take a look over them. But we'll get through here with some of the replays as well as what we got with the live shots here. Mevis there from KC there. This is going to be the Kirchner. Bees now maybe trying to press on. They are stringing it out here. We got a little bit of a gap as we can get this camera view from the helicopter. It does give us a good idea of how things are playing out over the top of the climb here as they make their way through lap number 3 of 6. And this is where they can make the elastic snap if they press on. A large group like that on the front can get a little bit of a roller coaster going on the downhill. If you don't grab on there, they're going to roll away quicker from you than you're going to roll up to them because of the amount of avatars that can use that snowball effect on the downhill here, Anna.
Yeah, and we saw a 3-person breakaway in the racing yesterday in APAC that actually went around about now and then used the momentum of the downhill, actually threw down a steamroller, managed to get that to the advantage, get away, and they stayed away. Well, 2 of them did at least. So, yeah, this downhill, usually you think the pack will catch up, but I think it doesn't go steep enough for long enough for that momentum to have as much of an advantage as it usually would. So you can see here, I mean, I think this pack will come together, but there's the riders just off the back there who may not be able to get back on. So this is where you sort of lose 5 to 6 riders each lap, hopefully. Sort of, you can see there are about 4 riders. Maybe tricky for them to get on. They're pushing some high watts to be able to get back, and I actually don't think they would be able to make it up because that pack will roll pretty quickly now. So that tends to be what happens. You have a big pack roll around, it strings out around the Champs-Élysées, around the Arc de Triomphe, and then coming down this road, 4 or 5 each lap, just kind of getting off the back, not able to catch back up. We'll see if we see some breakaways in the laps to come up, maybe lap number 6, but at the moment, maybe game over for these 4.
Yeah, Surge is going to need a serious surge at this point to try and make something happen. Dirt there as well. That is going to be the end, I think, for these 4 riders as far as being able to. And they're in 36th place here at this point as well. So going to be a tough day. Going to need to get across this or bring it to the line. It may just be a Grupo Compacto for those riders here. Millard here, TCG. It's going to be Mersch right in front of him. Hansen now taking over toward the front. That's going to be the DZR team there. A lot of Bs, I think, from Kirchmer. They've really stacked this front group. Zwift Scotland are here as well. It looks like Zwift Scotland. Now, take a look here. You'll be able to recognize the jerseys for each of the teams this season, Anna. It's kind of cool. I like the way that WTRL has set it up. Specific jerseys for each of the teams, for the in-game jerseys. Now, not jerseys that are necessarily for the club. Maybe the club hasn't gotten their team jersey in-game, but they can select something that is an in-game already available jersey. And a lot of them, they were required to select something. It looks like Z Scott using the blue Zwift kit. You can see the vegan team do have their own kit in-game as well. Rowan King, as you can see there with Adams. So being able to identify them, they're not just using some random jersey for the viewers that are watching here. Each one of these teams are going to be watching those who are in a different jersey than themselves to be following wheels and making sure they're covering those moves. DZR, though, I'm seeing 4 or 5 actually of those red jerseys, I believe, here with the white stripes.
Yeah, I like that red jersey. Yeah, that's a good jersey with the red and white stripes. They're doing really well. Looks like about 3 or 4 in that group, I just noticed as well. So, yeah, looks like then Kirchmer, the Scottish team. Haven't seen many Swedish Swifters yet, just one potentially. Yeah, that's looking really tidy. Yeah, liking that look. Very good. Very cool kit. So what was the team again, Nathan?
I believe this is going to be DZR, the Danish Zwift riders, if I'm not incorrect. And just double check that real quickly here, as make sure I'm not completely throwing us off. But yeah, DZR Pain Cave Pundits, I believe, is who this is going to be using that
nice, I like
kit
it.
that they have.
Yeah, perfect. No, that's really good. It's it stands out when you have that aerial shot. You kind of like that kit that you just see, and they've got 4 riders up the front, so doing very, very well. The Danish Zwift riders, so good on them. Kirchmer Bees also doing very well, and yeah, that Scottish team, which I think are. I'm tipping for a little bit of an upset. I think we got Hershey there, as I've seen going by, and they've. I like their style. I think potentially they're trying to move up. Not quite. Oh, there we go. 4th, even with Rowan King Rhinos. So there we go. And only 1 point ahead of the SOW Gruppettos. So they're definitely on the charge, liking their racing.
Yeah, Z Scott here, they do have quite a few riders in this front group as well. Bradbury. Be on the watch out for these blue kits here. Do you see 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. So they definitely, synth riders there as well. So plenty of the Z-Scott. Hershey is there. And they've been involved in the sprints a little bit. They've been going very early, so I'm not sure they've been grabbing the points that they need. Now, one team that I'm wondering if they're losing out on the day, I'm going to have to double check with perhaps our Zwift Power as well, but where are Vikings Gleipnir? That's a question, I think, that needs to be answered here, because they're currently in first place. I'm not sure that they've been taking down a whole lot of points here early on. I do see the Vikings kit here in the lower left-hand corner. There's another 1, 2, 3, two of them in the middle of the pack there. Have they made enough bodies into this front group, though, as I'm only seeing 3 of them, and I have not seen them involved. That Vikings kit with Loden, I think we did see him early on for the first sprint, but outside of that, not a whole lot of that Vikings kit. You can see the chevron on the back of the kit there with the gray and orange white accents there as well. We do see one of the riders there making their way to the front here. We'll see if we can get eyes on the rider going to be Liam, I believe. And on the Tron bike here with the orange. What do you think here? Not too bad with what he's got to... I think this is pretty good, actually, on the Fashion Police here with this individual rider. Not so much. I mean, I know you in the orange, not so much here, Anna. I get that. But I mean, the accents are all perfect, I think. Really matching across the board here.
Well, the gloves, for one, aren't matching the socks. You got blue gloves, orange socks, pink hat. So that's a very mismatched. One of his teammates went by who actually looked a little bit better. So, yeah, I mean, it's... Yeah, orange gloves. If you had the orange little cap that you can see in the guy who's off the front now, that would have like really tied it together nicely. I am liking that quite a few of the guys in the yellow kits are matching up with the yellow Tron. Always looks very, very tidy. But But yeah, I actually just noted down when you were talking there that Danish kit. I've added that to my list of potentially best kits for season
Really?
3.
That's a big.
Yeah.
That is. So what was the? There was one last week that you said might be best kit. What's the current running?
So I've got
Do we
my
have
list.
a current running?
Yeah, I do have a current running. Best kits so far, there's 4. There's Socks for Watts, Relentless, the Aeonian race kit that we might see in the women's race a bit later, and then this Danish Zwifters I have added in. I've also got a best new kit. Sitting in that list is Finesse, Agawatt, and L'Equip, who's also in the EMEAs. So
I don't know how Agawatt
running.
used that one. That's my. I don't know. I mean, Agawatt's kit is just that thing's just fire, in my opinion. But
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I do like the L'Equip too, but yeah, the reason I like that Danish one is your eyes are drawn to that red and white, which is just phenomenal. When you've got that view, you're trying to see riders. Yeah, great. You want your eye drawn to that kit, and that's why I like that one.
Now a little bit of it. Now I was speaking about this team here. I thought that they were caught out a little bit in some of the sprints. They need some points. They're currently sitting at 92. Vegan Bobcats at 84 points, first and second place. Rowan King is with Scotland. They're trying to take over at the front of this race's current standings. Here comes Rudre, though, over the top. Is that going to be? No. Who is this actually making the way to the front? It's going to be Venerate here now on the attack, actually. Loden trying to hold down. Danielson coming through, but here comes the Vegans. Ovenden right to the line. No, I don't think he did it. I believe Venerate held on to the line. I'll see if we can get a replay of that. That was so incredibly close. Nice little kick there and a hold there, I believe, from Mersch coming from Venerate CC. Now, Venerate CC is not actually in the current standings from what I can see. So perhaps this rider is riding for another team that I am unaware of, because I have a feeling that these orange kits, I'm seeing a lot of them. And so I have a feeling that this is another team. We'll see if maybe another one of the riders here has a tag that's a little bit different. I'm seeing Hector Bienak here as well. We'll see if we can get maybe some info coming in from our data man on who these riders are.
Yeah, but I think they might have heard your commentary there, Nathan, that these riders from those top teams need to start making a showing in those intermediary points, because there's a lot on offer, 6 laps as well. So they need to start showing face. They may have some riders on the top and they're going for those overall points, but they've got to start going for some of those intermediary twos. And I think we saw that with a little early attack. May not have paid off that time around, but good to see them in the mix now. And yeah, again, this looks like a smaller pack. It looks as though it maybe have strung out a little bit with a few just dropping off the back. So about, I want to guess, 30-ish riders now in this front pack, and we'll see what happens over the next couple of sprints. We're in lap 4, so just 2 more sprints to go. 1 more sprint in the next lap, and then they'll be coming around for the finish. But yeah, these guys on the back maybe look a little bit tired, kind of yo-yoing here. So that's one of the Scottish riders. Ryder is his name. That's a great last name for Zwift, who nicely sitting in the draft, but a little bit unsafe there. Just needs to get more sort of in touch with the back of that pack.
The orange and black jerseys are definitely coming to my attention as well here. This is a team that's placed 4 riders into the front end of this race now at this point. If we start taking a look across all the teams there, Team CLS are also there. It looks like they're taking over toward the front there. They've only got 3, I believe, comparatively to some of these other teams that have stacked it with 4. Team DZR there with the red and white stripes across the back that we were talking about. I do believe we see 3 riders there coming from them. Zwift Scotland, it looks like, with 4 riders still involved here. Maybe even 5, actually. Look at that. There's actually 5 Zwift Scotland as I'm seeing the blue kits there with the Zwift, as we do see Struthers, the name there, popping up over the top of the avatar at this point. That's going to be the Zwift Scotland team. So they've really, I think, been the team that's been able to stack this front group and keep people involved. You know, from a team standpoint, you DS for teams, you DS for the Riot team, obviously, and as well as SARS, the Pros Closet team. You know, what when you're talking about winning these preems, these points races, what's the higher priority? Is it what we've seen Zwift Scotland do here, or is it a little bit different? I mean, it seems that seems to pay off massively toward the end of a race, especially one that seems to be breaking apart so much as the pack whittles down.
Yeah, and this is where I talked about the earlier broadcast, sort of strategy that Deceuninck Quickstep uses that I like, called the defender-attacker strategy. So when you've got a team of 6, really depends on your team makeup. But say with one of the teams I sort of help out, they've got 6 riders. They're all pretty even. They all have the ability to make that front pack. Rider's off the front now. I thought he was dropping off the back before, but sorry, it just looks like a very concerted effort here for an attack. But yeah, when you've got 6 riders in that front pack, maybe split it up. So 3 go for intermediary points, so they'd be called the attackers, and then 3 of your best sprinters probably would just stay for fresh legs and go for the finish line points, which are pretty high in value, and maybe some of the fastest time segments. So that's where you split the pack into that. Attackers, 3 riders, defenders, 3 riders.
It sounds like we have a mom drop out, but all good there, Anna. Take care of the mom flat happening here, but the synth rider here off the front. They seem to be employing that actually, Anna, pretty well here. Interesting point that you made there. If you have the numbers and you've got good sprinters, 3 sitting in, keeping the legs fresh, and using 2 other riders to kind of take those risks, push off the front, maybe be able to grab a couple of extra points there with the breakaway situation. At what point is it paying off, and at what point is it just wasting energy of being able to stack a top 5 or a top 10? If you got 5 riders, why waste the energy? Try and take the best risks. So what is the what's the number or the ratio that you look for in these kind of situations? I mean, it does look like it's instigating. It looks like riders are starting to split things apart. So that seems to be the whole idea, is that, look, people are going to get antsy, and it's going to put sting in the legs in the pack, and it's going to do some sort of damage is the idea, it seems.
Yeah, and the cool thing about having a league, so this is, these guys have been racing together for a long time now. People know the strong riders, and that's what makes it cool. So you could have a sort of sacrificial attack from one of your better riders, especially if you're quite far ahead on points overall for the series. But you could have a sacrificial attack because it will draw out the people behind. If you send off a sort of a rider who doesn't have that finish line power, then riders may just be fine letting them go. But you can actually send off a sort of early attack from a strong rider and just sacrifice them for that race, just knowing it's going to draw attacks and fatigue the legs of the teams behind. So yeah, as the series progresses, as people get to know each other, these tactics just become so nuanced, and that's where all the fun happens, right? So you can see there it did string out a little bit. Well, I'm not sure of the purpose of this attack because it strung out, but then it kind of came back together. And he's definitely not going for first across line points here. So maybe just felt really good and decided to go off the front. But I do want to mention the Skater Occupy Watopia team, so the SOWs. We've got a rider there.
Oh, that's who it was. Thank you very much. That's super helpful. The SOW Gruppetto is going to be the black and orange. Is that right?
That's it, yeah. And they've got a rider in there, a German rider called Marcus Papp. Sprint of 1,278 watts, 15-second power, 14.2 watts a kg. Well above any other rider in this front group.
Right here, this is him. Look at his cadence too. 80 RPMs, 150. He's licking his chops. He's biding his time.
Exactly. So I think that's one to watch. Also, they do have some other pretty good sprinters in their crew. They've got 3 or 4 in this top group now. So they're sitting well. The other sprinter, 12.2 watts per kg, so not too shabby. I'm kind of picking these guys. They've played it well. They've got good sprinters in that front group, and that's what you want to see.
And I have a feeling they're really watching Zwift Scotland as well. Zwift Scotland at 79 points currently right now, where the SOW Gruppetto at 78 points, 4th and 5th place. Also, Rowan King Rhinos are at 79 points as well. So 3rd, 4th, and 5th are all up for grabs. The Vegan Bobcats and the Vikings Gleipnir, they have a little bit of a gap there at that 92 and 84. But this is going to be a day that SOW Gruppetto could really bump up, being the sprinter's delight that it is out here today. It's all about the big kicks. And they haven't really fought for these points too much, it looks like, early on. I think they're really putting a lot of chips into the final sprint basket, where you can grab massive points if you stack that top 5.
Yeah, look at that overhead shot. You see 4 of those riders there. So they've placed themselves so well. I just wonder if maybe they need to start going for a few of these intermediaries, because they do have other teams who are mopping up a lot of points as we go through these laps. They're in lap 5 of 6 now, coming through around up to the sprint. Looks like they might have lapped a rider. Looked like someone was just dropping off there, but that's probably a lapped rider. Wondering who is going to open up here. We've got a little dig off the front here from one of those Danish teams, it looks like, with that very, very tidy and obvious kit. So they're going off the front. Looks like Hansen there, yes, from the Danish team, with Bradbury coming up behind. But some very good attacks coming from behind. Ovenden again. Is that Ovenden coming through?
So very strong good in the sprint, it looks like. But, as you said, there's the... Now, I'm wondering if that was a half sprint there coming through Stru. If that was kind of... Well, no, 189... You know, you wonder how much they're really throwing down. Well, we'll grab a couple points here. We'll grab a couple points there. You know, you've spotted this orange and black kit here, and I'm just wondering if they're just watching and waiting here. Some of these other teams, they may be wanting to get rid of the reality of Pap, because you said this guy's got almost a 1,300 watt per kilogram sprint. So be on the watch out for this man, as he's been able to follow the wheels as well. Hector Biniok there now is also able to make this. Anybody who does not want these teams to come to the line, they're going to be pushing the pedals at this point. And I have a feeling that the Vikings are on the counter, though, because they want to get a breakaway situation happening. I don't think the Vikings want to bring anybody to the line for the scratch race win today.
No, exactly. We see here Loden just pushing off the front, maybe just feeling a bit good here. He'll definitely get picked up by the pack. A few 1s and 2s just dropping. I mean, caught unawares there around the Arc de Triomphe. And everyone's coming together now. But yeah, that's what will be interesting to see after this race is how those intermediaries were divvied up, because don't forget that SOW orange team, they've got 4 riders in the top. And they were quite near the top of that sprint. I mean, they weren't going full effort, but they could have easily had 3 in the top 10 and be getting points. So, I mean, they may not be winning those intermediaries, but they're definitely up there. And I think when you've got a sprinter who can hold 14 watts a kg, they can kind of go 80% and still be getting some pretty decent points. And then at the finish line, I mean, I'm picking a lead out. I think this is a perfect course for a kind of lead out. 1K to go, you come out of that kick out of the tunnel, get someone on the front, up the power, neutralizing the attacks, get your teammates on your wheel, and they could deliver Pap right there to the finish.
Yeah, it is a perfect course for a good lead out. You know, you could sacrifice 1 or 2 riders. You do want as many as you can get into the top 5 though as well. So you know what's kind of fun about one of these courses is to try and put a couple of riders together and kind of create that side-by-side sprint. You could end up being an awesome lead-out train for another team, though, that's battling you. Now, in the lower left-hand corner, 1:24 to go to the start of the women's race. We are covering the Division 3Bs today for the women's race, I believe it is. Division 3Bs here for the women's race out here today. So we'll be jumping in with Division 3. We'll also cover the standings for them as well. But in the Division 3Bs, Kirchner Wild Bees, Soxwat's Pizza Party, the Belgian Zwift Riders, Cats 2, as well as the herd of Lapgo Penguins. Those are the top 4 currently really battling it out. We'll be watching out. We'll go over all those standings in just a moment. We'll get into their start in just a second here as well. So the women's race just about to get going, a little less than a minute to start here. We are currently looking at the men's race, though. They are into lap 5 of 6. They'll be starting their final lap here in just a couple of K. 46 minutes of racing down. Vikings Gleipnir currently on 92 points. The current series leaders, the Vegan Bobcats, they've been dominating the sprints as well, the Vegan Bobcats so far. Will they be able to hold on, though, for the day? We'll find out at the end, because the Royal King Lions, Zwift Scotland, and the SOW Gruppetto all within striking distance for a top 3 in the standings at the end of the day, and they've been really setting themselves up well with how many of these Zwift Scotland riders as well as the Gruppetto riders are in King. I'm not seeing a lot of Rowan King jerseys in here. They may be the ones losing out on the day. I'm seeing 2 on the left. We haven't mentioned them too much, but I haven't seen them very involved, I guess, is what I'm saying. They've been able to follow. But, you know, we've seen the black and orange definitely involved a little bit there with the SOW team. But where has Rowan King been? Only 2 riders making this front group and not involved in the sprints too much. It's going to be a tough one for them to hold on to that current tie for 3rd place that they have.
Yeah, that is going to be tough for them, and surprising they're not there. I was just looking at, there's only 2 more races after this one. So you've got Team Time Trial next week, and then you've got what will be quite a brutal course, the Surrey Hills, racing around London. Very different to this kind of race. So this is where your sprinters really need to be getting those points for the team, because the Surrey Hills one, tricky. There's a lot of climbing in that one. It's long. It's going to kind of, there's actually looks like no sprint points. It's just the KOMs. So you've got to make the most of your sprinters in this race if you've got a team full of sprinters, which it looks like the SOW team does have. So that's probably why we're seeing 4 riders up here, whereas Rowan King, they may be just sort of thinking, okay, we don't have a team of sprinters, but we're going to do pretty well in the next 2 races, so that's all right. And it is coming to the pointy end, though. 2 races to go, one of them a team time trial. So yeah, you've got to take this race pretty seriously with the arsenal you've got.
We're going to do some picture-in-picture here for everybody here. The men's race in the lower left-hand corner as they're about to start their lap 6 of 6, coming into the final belt lap. I just want to check out what's happening with the start, though, of the women's race as they just got out on course here. We are already seeing a little bit of a break in the pack. This course can take you by surprise with that tight right turn. I've seen really quickly riders get separated, and look at this already. 32nd place already has riders off the back here with Satonia, Jacob B. Dawson also there from Satonia CC now. We do see El Hunter Vargas there as well. This is a rough start here coming in for this Evo team. The Belgian Zwift riders, they're also off the back. Look at this, Aldridge and Jones, Nancy. I mean, tough day here on course for the riders that are unable to grab those wheels right off the bat.
Yeah, I do want to give a shout out to my mate Britt Litton, sitting at the back of the crew there. She's in the Rave kit. She's a great triathlete, qualified for the World Champs, mum of 2 small children. So shout out to Britt. She is a avid Zwifter, absolutely loves it, knows all about bike set. Out there she is with the disc wheel, looking pretty fast. And
are we gonna do
massive,
are we doing good friend of yours, what's happening with the kit setup? What's happening with the kit setup here? No
I like your Brit,
favoritism.
but I polka dot gloves and orange socks with the kit. I just absolutely do not think that's a good look. But she'll hear from me later about what she needs to do to improve that one.
And whenever we get Rave on screen, we always got to go to our dance party, right? So here, she's lighting it up. We need the disco lights. I mean, look at this kit using the free speed. Let's go. Britt Litton, dance party in house. I hope she's getting down on the bike right now. We're going to jump back to the men's race. As you can see in the lower left-hand corner, they are starting their final lap. The women are just getting out on their first. We're going to go ahead and watch their sprint, though, for the men as they do jump out here. We always appreciate Rave getting into the dance party for us, though, as we're on course with them. And giving us a little bit of the fashion police as well. No love lost, it looks like, as she is a friend, but still, what is going on with the KOM gloves? Now, is this an attack of the front? Synth Rider again, Z Scott. They have not been there where they have wanted to be in a lot of these sprints, and they're taking some risks. He's done it again, too. Same rider, Anna.
Same rider. I mean, what was he testing the waters before? This is 2 little solo attacks in a very short space of time. This is amazing. He's got a big gap on that pack too, 4 seconds as he starts hitting that uphill track. Has he already used his power up? Now this is a question, because if he uses something now, he could stay away. But I think when you've got the likes of Vigiola on the back and Hershey leading that charge, he may just, there we go, drafting power up, not ideal. He's not behind any draft. So I think, unfortunately, he probably will get caught here, riding some high power. But you see Hershey, teammate though, leading the charge behind. Larry as well, going up to 5.2 watts a kg, but Ryder still keeping some epic power here.
He's got a good gap.
400 watts.
This is a good gap.
I think he actually 3 seconds
no,
down to
I don't
Larry
know. It's not happening. No, the orange numbers are
he's
going to
gonna get
pop
caught.
as soon as it goes up a little bit more. It's a 1% gradient, but it's going to jump up a little bit here, and they're going to come through. Here comes Mersch. Mersch's coming over the top there. This is going to be the SOW team in the orange and black. They're going to come into screen in just a moment, and they are looking for the points on the back end of this race.
Yes.
They weren't involved early on, and now it looks like they are looking to try and get these points at the back end of this race here. Danielson trying to come across. Gleitner holding on. It looks like he's going to do it. Mersch makes it happen. Again, the vegans still involved, though. That's 1, 2, 3 there over the line. Miller now coming up. It looks like the Danish rider is there as well with Hansen. There could be a breakaway. This is the dangerous part. If you let somebody slide off the front too much into this last few K, we did see it work in the men's race in APAC now, but it looks like we've got a large group coming across. A lot of bodies here to work together to get the teams back involved. Kurtzberg struggling, it looks like now at this point. Watch out, orange and black. The bees are there as well. The vegan team, they're sitting in second place. Only 2 riders from what we can see. The ones with the most to gain, I'm seeing a lot of Zwift Scotland. I'm seeing plenty of CLSs there with 3 riders as well. Rowan King with Adams has stayed involved. It looks like he's going to really have to pull something off for his team as the only rider that I can see for Rowan King at this point. Anything else there? I mean, we were talking a lot about the SOW team. They're really well set up, and has Pep made it? Pep is there. He has made it.
He's there.
Pep's there.
Sure.
Pep's, excuse me.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on him. You can see him with the aero helmet there, the orange kit. Absolutely my pick for the finish here. Still got a lot of teammates. I mean, they took out that intermediary there. I think they actually had a rider in 4th that I could see just behind. It wasn't Pat, but maybe one of their others. So, yeah, definitely my pick for watching that orange kit coming into the end. I'm not seeing any concerted breakaway efforts going. We saw that earlier. We had a 3-man breakaway in the APAC division. It went away about here, but a lot of people using power-ups, are they struggling? Because they're not going to get another one.
There's a power-up on the front. Did you see? That was interesting. It was like a drafting power-up on the front. It might have been a mistake, actually. Yeah, I mean, we did see Kurtzberg just using one of their steamrollers on the downhill here, maybe just trying to keep things fast. Is there some riders struggling a little bit they were trying to get rid of, perhaps? As we do see 1 or 2 riders here on the back. They might not want Synth or Mersch getting back involved. These were the riders also who were involved in that sprint. They might be just trying to break them. These are matches. These are matches.
Yeah, so he was panicking there. They saw the SOW rider going off the back, and I think it was one of the vegan Zwift riders just used that opportunity there. The one with the Aqua Aero helmet there went off, used the steamroller, pushed that pace, but unfortunately for them, Mersch got back on, and safety within the pack. Yeah, you don't want to be dropping power-ups either. You're not getting another one before the finish line. So unfortunately for them, that might have put them out of contention for any kind of finish line glory. But yeah, I'm keeping an eye on those orange jerseys. I'm gonna call it now. I think Pep's got this one.
It's got a huge sprint here. We'll see if he can time it correctly. It does still come down to a little bit of the timing as well. Mikkel Strandgaard is letting us know that DZR does have 4 riders in there, and he is right. They have made it with plenty of firepower still in and amongst them. Who is in the bikes and beer kit, though? On the front here, it looks like this is going to be interesting because this is not a rider that I have, and it's going to be our early. Nope, this is not. It's going to be our early cyclocrosser. I was going to call him our cyclocrosser. He was kind of all over the. He was just trying to freak everybody out by crossing wheels over and over again, maybe trying to make some moves there. Vigiola here, solid ride from him so far. We'll see how this ends up playing out. Do we know what that country flag is? That is a cool looking country flag. Never seen that one before, to be honest. We have seen a lot of updates recently to the country flags out there, with some new ones being added to the game. And Doni Vigiola.
Wait, I will be able to find this out for you.
I'm seeing a French
Vigiola
flag.
Sounds somewhat sort of like Italian, maybe, but I'm gonna find this out for you. It is so in Zwift Power, it's a French flag. So
yeah, I've seen that as well. It's a French flag. Saint Pierre Miquelon. Saint Pierre Miquelon is what I'm seeing as the country.
Hmm.
Under the
Interesting.
actual
Maybe
listings. The
a
level 31 Zwifter does not have
31.
a sprint at all, actually, at 8.75. But he does have a solid FTP, so that's maybe why we've seen him on the front a lot, trying to just really ramp things up for the team. He's riding for the Zwift
Oh, okay. It's
Espagne
a
team, I believe.
territorial. It's a territory of France. But yeah, an archipelago. There we go. Self-governing territory from France in the northwestern Atlantic Ocean near the Canadian province of Newfoundland. Wow.
A little bit
Learn
of
something new
geography
every day.
lesson there, everybody. There we
There
go.
we go.
That's
I
why you
do
show
have
up.
a
We don't
degree
show
in
up for the
geography, but I'm
sprints or anything like that.
I'm using Wikipedia.
we're here for the whiteboard on geography too. I mean, that's really where things are at, right? Synth rider again.
Yes.
This guy is with
Oh.
Scotland. This lead out from them. And look, oh my gosh, this is
Oh,
so
look at
well
that.
done. 1, 2,
Yes,
3, 4.
love it.
Absolutely well done
Perfect.
here.
This
Setting
is a
Hershey
lead out.
up. Amazing here. Speak to this, Anna.
Oh, perfect. We talked about it earlier. Lead outs coming out of the tunnel along this flat part. Absolutely perfect timing. This is what I love to see in game. They're taking this race by the horns and they're absolutely going for it. They've got to keep that pace high, but they are stringing out this pack. This is so good. You very rarely see lead outs in Zwift, and this is the course I wanted to see it on. These guys are doing so well. Ryder just dropped off the back, but you can see Hershey pushing up. Unfortunately, there's some strong riders in the teams behind and they're coming up, but Hershey just needs to keep this power on. Go for it. 6.4 watts a kg. He may be able to break from here, and the others using that sticky draft, keeping the pace high. Those other riders are getting a little bit stuck behind them. Awesome tactics, Team Scotland. Really, really good to see.
Yeah, it does look like Hershey's got a little bit of gap, but coming into the last 400 meters, it's going to be so incredibly difficult to hold on at this point. We've got 500 to the line. Miller now, TCG has closed it down here, but he's just going to be a lead out. That's all it is. DZR, here comes the steamroller. Hansen tries to go. He's just kind of ramping up a little bit, waiting now. Now it's going to be Jelton. Jelton with 20 watts per kilogram. Where's your man? Where's Pap? Pap's coming through. 14 watts per kilogram coming from Pap. 15 watts per kilogram. Easy peasy to the line. SOW, make it happen. Struthers, though, nicely done from Struthers. As Struthers sat in, and Z Scott still got something out of that lead out. That was for sure. Amazing job, though. You called it. It didn't lie there. The watts per kilogram made it happen there, Anna. Amazing result there from Pap and the SOW Gruppetto. Great job. We're going to jump back into the women's racing. They are just about to start their second lap. They're still on their first lap here, just finishing up. We'll bring in a replay of how things played out for the first sprint. Inga, though, from the Kirchmer team, was able to throw down a solid sprint, though, actually, amongst the ladies. We'll see if it can bring in this replay for you of how that ended up playing out, as it was absolutely phenomenal sprint that they actually pulled off here. We'll go ahead and bring that in just a second. But again, SOW, really good job by them, by that Gruppetto team, in order to pull off as many points as they could. We'll try and get a look at the series standings as well as the preems and how that ended up playing out, because it was super tactical in that B race. And that's really what this points racing, why it makes it so exciting, because there's so many points on such a small course to really go for something and be tactical and break things up and work for your team.
What Scotland did there, I mean, it may not have paid off at the finish. It looks like they may have had a rider in second or third, but it just, you want to see that in Zwift. You want to see some of those like real team dynamics coming out and not just relying on, the power right at the end. I mean, they had to do something, and that's what I like to see. They knew that Pap was there. They knew he had the huge watts. They had to do something to try and drop him, and they tried something. And I love it. You've got to do that kind of stuff. It totally lights up the racing. Looks amazing. I never like the racing where you just come to the line with a pack of, 30 riders and it's just an all-out power effort. It's just having something like that happening in the last kilometer really spices things up, and, may not have worked quite to their advantage that time around, but man, it made that exciting.
Struthers still came through for second too, and he was sitting a little ways back, I think, with that lead out, so it did set him up pretty well. Let's take a quick look though here at what happened on the last sprint. We are heading into, just real quick here, this is going to be lap 2 of the women's race, just starting. In the last sprint though, here's how it ended up playing out. It was going to be Talbot trying to hold on for Sox Watts, but it's Inga here from Kirchmer coming across the line, followed up by Jesse and then Talbot. Then it's going to be Archins and Mackey. That was your top 5 across the line last time. KC was on a little bit of attack, trying to get something to break away, but as you can see just a moment ago, the pack still all together. Now heading into, so that was the first sprint that we're watching for a replay here. This was a replay, just so everybody knows, this was a replay. Now coming back though into the live images, there's a little bit of attack off the front for a moment here, and it is going to be BZR Cats 2. The Belgian Zwift racing team now, with Sox Watts following up with Talbot now. And is it going to be Kirchmer again, just sitting in and waiting for their moment?
Yeah, I'm looking at the jerseys in that front pack. Sox for Watts doing very well. I think they've almost got 5 or 6 riders in this lead bunch, so they've done very well to make all those breaks, but they may not have the sprint. We can see some sprints being opened up there just from within the pack. I think Kirchmer might have the advantage over the sprints. Look at that, just sitting on that wheel, drop the arrow. They need to go for it now, though, if they've dropped that arrow power up. Need to really open up those sprint watts. Just seems like a sort of general increase in power there. They are dropping riders quite a lot off the back here. The Sox Watts rider Talbot still taking the lead, so just riding a really high pace here for the B category, around 6 watts a kg. That was very, very significant. McKay on her wheel straight away. Not seeing many sprints opening up, and here they go. You can see the drafting power up being dropped by that Evo rider, I think, right behind, and there it is.
Inga again taking it down.
Amazing.
This time not walking away with it so much, though. So perhaps, early on we're going to see this from her, but we are seeing some challenges. Kirst was right there. But again, Jesse was right on the wheel as well. Sox or Watts, it looks like, having to take some minor placings versus what Inga and our Jesse took there. Kirst getting right in the middle of that Kirchmer team, though.
Yeah, that's it was a very late opening up of the sprint. So obviously just trusts their acceleration there. And doing it was pretty impressive there to take the win. I mean, that was leaving it to the last sort of 50 meters, it looked like. Very strong pace held by Talbot off the front. I'm just wondering if that's her strategy and her role in the team is just to come into those sprints with a really high power that makes it hard for people to open up, because they're already on the rivet trying to stay on wheels. I mean, if that's a strategy, that's a very, very good one. I like seeing that. Just sort of it neutralizes the field a bit. It means the sprinters just don't have that top end that they might have had if they were sort of cruising into that sprint line.
This is going to be one of our favorite teams out here, the Herd team. This has got to be, I have a feeling this is going to be our Galapagos. I absolutely love
the Penguins.
That. Is this going to be the Penguins here? Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the standings, where things are standing. Now, in the A category, we are going to give some shout-outs as well for the Division 3 across all of them. This is the A category that are out on course at the same time as the B category. Difficult to cover across categories, just so everybody knows, but we will give shout-outs to their current standings. Team Electric Experience Company, Chanticleer, they're currently sitting at 95 points at the top, battling with the Revo Arrows there at 92 in second. Jet Ladies Racing Team, 89. Fems Forte is powered by Stages there in fourth with 84 points. Bristol Storm, 79. Rave A2 Euro holding down the dance party at 6 with 75. Sox for Watts, SPR Cake there in 7th. Alto Vilo Montebello there it was 66 points in 8th. SZ Sin, 41 points in 9th. And KRTA Rocket Ride, they are in 10th place at 24 points. Now, the B category that we are covering, this is the current situation. We can see so far with the sprints why the Wild Bees are at 96 points, Anna.
Yeah, so they're, I mean, I think they just seem very, very strong. Kirchner Wild Bees in first there, a few points ahead of the Sox for Watts Pizza Party. So, like I said, they've got a lot in that front crew, so they've got to really come to their own party in this race to try and close that gap a little bit with Kirchner. Belgian Zwift riders quite a bit further back with 87, but they're even with the herd of the Galapagos Penguins that we have been watching Jay Hay there. Evo Ice in 5th, the Rave B Euros in 6th, SZ Swedish Swifters URD in 7th, Sotonia CCs in 8th, Ninjas, kind of spelt weirdly, CC Ladies B in 9th, and not on the table yet, the Rafa RCC woman.
And then in the C category for the Division 3 EMEA, it's going to be Bella V2 with 93 points. The Belgian Zwift Rider Bullets 1 at 89. The WTL Drafting Dinos UK C1 with 87 in third place there. It's going to be Aeonian Diosis. Fourth place in 83. TVT Furious, they're 82 points, really close for fourth and fifth. And then Rafa RCC Women C3. In sixth place, there were 68. It's going to be BRT Wildcats in seventh, 62 points. RWB Serrano Hams, C3 in eighth at 58. Setonia CCWC won with 55 points in ninth. And Zwift Scotland, WC2. Love it that Zwift Scotland here in this EMEA division have men and women racing across the board. Always really cool to see the parity across the teams. With the men's and women's teams. Big shout out to the clubs that are making that happen. No D's in Division 3, just as a heads up. There is no D standings or teams in the Division 3. So A, B's, and C's. We are in with the B category, and we've got a small peloton here.
Yeah,
that's
small group.
Really broken things up early on here. 27 seconds back, we've got one Socks for Watts rider, Thompson, here, trying to hold on.
Bad place to be.
Yeah, Brain and the rest. I mean, really, at this point, working together with, well, it looks like maybe she's trying to get away from Brain as Watts is just sitting in, not chasing her teammate down. So you do have these little battles that end up playing out, within the race, because the top 30 still get a solid amount of points all the way through. So these minor placings really do matter. When it comes to the racing for the team out here. So Watts, she's not going to chase her teammate down unless she can kind of break Brain, I would assume, for the BZR Cats. So it'll just be Watts sitting on the wheel here. Salad, it looks like no women's land as well for Evo, as well as C Paris. So that's the current situation. Lots of mayhem, it looks like, has played out on course already.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we talked before, Socks for Watts had what I thought were about 5 or 6 riders, and now looks like just 3. So unfortunate as they're coming around into lap 3 that, yeah, just a much smaller pack. But what's cool to see is there's quite a few teams in there. So you've got the Kirchmars, you've got the Socks for Watts team. So I think Herd as well. So a lot of little tactics that could play out with such a small pack, but a lot of teams with more than 2 riders.
Yeah, that is true. So there is the reality here of one Evo rider that's going to just probably be watching and waiting and allowing everybody else to kind of have their infighting. That is going to be the role, I think, of the Evo rider at this point, unless she's feeling extremely strong. Is that going to be not Jules? Jules is riding for Socks for Watts. We'll see if we get an idea. It's going to be Kirst, actually. Kirsten, she took down some solid points for Evo. She was second to Katya on the last sprint, I believe. So well played to the Evo rider, getting involved here, following wheels, and able to still get some points for her team, even though she's extremely isolated at this point. So it is going to be the Rave team with 2 riders, the Kirchmer team with 2 riders, or 3 riders, excuse me. As you can see, the Belgian Zwift riders on the right-hand side, you can see they're going to be with 2 riders. Herd has 3 in here with the green and blue. Socks Watts with 3 as well. So very well represented across the team. This going into lap number 3, lots of landscape to work with. This could end up being a very tactical race. Riders could really make something happen here if they want to, because there is enough firepower amongst the teams to kind of start messing with each other. And with the kind of sprints we've seen from the likes of Kirchmer, if I were one of the other teams, I might want to start trying to put some sting in their legs.
Yeah, and I think with Kirchmer as well, they're in the sort of enviable position about being ahead in the points overall. So they could just try some pretty crazy tactics as well. I mean, they've already got 3 riders in the top. They're no doubt going to solidify their lead. They've got great sprinters. So yeah, now's the time for them to try some different stuff, practice some things before they might hit the playoffs in a few weeks. The playoffs is not the time to be testing strategy, but in this kind of racing, in the position they're in, yeah, they could be mixing things up a bit for sure.
This is interesting. 3 power-ups, right? we've got draft, we've got arrow, and we've got steamroller. With the reality of how, it's a 1 in 3 chance, the dice roll is not nearly as much as it is with the, if you had all the power ups involved. So do you think the riders here are like, well, I'll use my arrow and risk it here a little bit? Or are those riders thinking they want a steamroller there? I mean, that arrow power up is really something, or perhaps they think that the steamroller is way more beneficial than perhaps it actually is. Maybe they want a steamroller. I mean, that was really interesting to see 3 arrow power ups being blown before the line here and a sprint still coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's people think the steamroller is more effective than it actually is, and they'll probably realize that and stop dropping the arrows, and start dropping the steamroller leading into there, because the arrow is, I believe, king here. I mean, if you had a feather, that would be that would override arrow, I think, on this kind of sprint going uphill. But yeah, definitely don't want to be ditching those arrows unless they're using the strategy we saw, which is the like the double rainbow, the double power up. So you drop the arrow right before you hit that line, you pick up the next power up and almost drop it straight away. Works really well, actually, if you've got the drafting one, just because they last a little bit longer. Arrow's only, 10 to 15 seconds, so it's not as effective. But yeah, maybe they'll do that, but then we didn't see any attacks off the front. So interested in those strategies. We'll see what power-ups they drop. Maybe they think the drafting one in that pack is a bit better, but we're seeing Foxy here from Rave, it looks like, going off similar to strategy we saw from Talbot from Socks for Watts, just pushing up that pace to that 5 watts a kg, making it really uncomfortable for the riders behind. So it kind of neutralizes their sprint. Quokkas behind, though, up to 6 watts a kg with that steamroller. That's one of the herd riders, and we can see just Socks for Watts opening up a little bit next to the Kirchner rider. They're all dropping power-ups extremely early. They've still got quite a ways to go before the sprint really opens up proper. Talbot, again, with that strategy of not sprinting, but just pushing that power-up, trying for a little breakaway, might actually work here. She's opened up that very well behind the team. I think this might pay off.
Inga's coming late. I think it was not the timing, and Talbot pulls it off. It does look like the teammate of Inga is able to also... Was Curse actually the next one? We'll have to take a look at the replay there and see if we can see it from the camera angle that we had. That was very well played by Talbot here, though. Very, I thought perhaps it was not the move to go so incredibly early there, but it did end up paying off for her. She ends up grabbing those points across the line. Amazing job here coming in from Talbot from Socks for Watts. The Socks for Watts team, they are still ones to watch out for the overalls here in the current series standings for the women. We are watching the B category again, everybody, and in these standings for this B category, the Socks for Watts team, Pizza Party, they are currently in the second place situation, 93 points. So they are battling out with the Wild Bees. So that is a big result, actually, that Talbot just pulled off up against the Kirchner Wild Bees. 96 and 93 points is the current situation. So that is, they may look back at that moment in this series of races, season 3, and that may be a winning moment for them, or at least something that really solidified their spot in this second place right there. Amazing move there coming in from Talbot.
What's Foxy saying there? On. I wonder what she was responding to there. Like, it's
got
on,
back on. I think got back on. I think got
on?
back on.
Okay.
Yeah, got on. I think Foxy. Yeah, see, Foxy is like, I'm on. Look, like.
Because you don't want to be saying it's on to the group. That's announcing
Bring
your
it on.
Strategy.
Look, see, yes, now yes, a yes coming through. So I think, are you on?
Okay, nice.
Yes, they're working together. 10 seconds.
Okay.
Katya.
Unfortunately, yeah.
What's happening with Katya? Gone at this point. No go for the Kirchner Bees. They're losing riders quickly, and we're whittling this down quick. There's only 11 riders left, it looks like, in this front group.
So is the danger going around the Arc de Triomphe? Is it kind of, you've done the sprint, you've hit that little hill after the sprint, which is always really hard. It strings out. Then it goes into this long kind of extended downhill. Now, if you get a little bit gapped off the back, you just you won't catch back up. We've seen that in the men's race as well. I think those guys were only 3 seconds back, and then that just exploded out to 10, 20 seconds, and then they're off. So looks like that, unfortunately, has happened for the Rave team. So Rave, any riders in this front pack now? It does not look like it. So Rave is totally out of the mix now. You've got 3 Herd, 3 Socks for Watts, 2 Kirchner. So Kirchner will be a little bit gutted there that they've had a rider drop off. Rave definitely a bit devastated not having any riders now in this top group. But yeah, sitting pretty. Herd, Socks for Watts. I mean, with Talbot's power as well, if she keeps going into those sprints with those high numbers, neutralizes the Kirchner sprinters. I mean, there's their strategy right there.
I do want to speak to the Belgian Zwift riders just a little bit. We've seen them very quiet so far when it comes to taking down much of the sprint points, but they have been consistent to stay here. Sandra, still involved. Arkins still involved as well. And they are sitting in that third place at 87 points. So I would not count them out for some big results at the end of the day. And having only 2 riders in here, going to 1-2 could put them in a good spot at the end of the day. These intermediary points, they are a lot. They are, I mean, they're huge, especially on today. You know, with 6 times around, so many points up for grabs. But they may be just saying, okay, we only got 2 riders here. This is very dominated by Sock Schwartz and Kirchner. We need to solidify this third place. Let's follow the wheels and make sure that we have our 2 riders here involved as best we can when it comes to the finish line points.
Well, this is the battle, right? Belgian Zwift riders in the 2 sort of black kits versus the herd of Galapagos penguins in those green and dark blue kits. 3 herds, 2 Belgian Zwifters. I mean, depends what all their other riders are up to. This is where it's you sort of look at this front pack and you'd go, oh, well, Herd's got it. But Belgian Zwifters could have 4 riders in the chase pack and Herd could have their riders well far back. So also you could have some of their riders going for fastest time segment each lap. I did see in the chase pack before some big orange numbers opening up. And because Socks for Watts is neutralizing the sprint somewhat, I think that the chase pack could be seeing some of those fastest time segments because they can sort of just cruise the race and then focus on that. So yeah, it's sort of this, the front pack tells part of the story, but sometimes when you see all the points come through at the end, you go, they had races going for fastest time segment and they just got a whole bunch of points.
Looking at Sock Schwartz coming through, they still got 3 riders here. Talbot taking those points down that last time through. We may see the back end of this race actually being really dominated by Sock Schwartz. I would not be surprised actually if we saw some serious efforts here. You know, early on we saw the reality of Inga's sprint. The timing there that second time through though, not the best.
Not good.
No, not at all. So we'll see if perhaps things do change up here in the second half of this race here. Sock Schwartz very well represented and they are looking pretty confident. Like I don't know, just like they haven't wasted a lot of energy. Their efforts have been concerted, it looks like. Now that is a question, you know, when it comes to the Sock Schwartz team, that may be a question of they just can't do anything. Or, you know, and they're just following wheels. Or, you know, when you see somebody not really sticking their nose in the wind too much and being too wild, as you see Inga here again, trying to drive things a little bit. Quok is there now from the Penguins coming on through with the drafting power up. But, you know, I do ask the question, have Sock Schwartz been sitting in and reserving energy and we're going to start seeing more from them in the second half? Or has it just been a following wheels and just hanging on with the kind of pace that's been set by the reality of Kirchner?
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking through some of the power stats at the moment as well. It definitely looks like Socks for Watts has got very strong 20-minute power numbers. So that's probably why we're seeing Helen Talbot going off early for those sort of long range, I wouldn't say sprint attacks, just a long range power effort. But yeah, Kirchmar's got some very decent 15-second sprints and Inga for sure. Herself and actually Curse from Evolution. So that pink kit there actually has the highest watts per kg in a 15-second sprint. If she can do that under fatigue, that's a different story because Socks for Watts is definitely going to keep those sprints very fatigue-based, which makes it harder for some of those riders. But yeah, Curse and Inga, the ones to watch, very, very good 15-second numbers. And at the finish line, definitely could be a bit of a head-to-head battle, but Socks for Watts, I believe, are really dominating his intermediary points with just their strategy of making it painful for everyone else.
Now, a little bit of information here from Helen Talbot there. She's an age group triathlete and a runner, competes at all distance. She qualified for Ironman Kona in 2016. Qualified for ITU age group actually for Olympic distance worlds in Madeira 2004, 2004 and Rotterdam 2017. That's quite a breadth of racing, 2004 all the way to 2017. She's got 155 races out on Zwift, level 40 Zwifter, riding for Sox Watts of the United Kingdom. Absolutely awesome. We're seeing a pretty good sprint for her at 9.9 watts per kilogram. Nothing that we've seen for 15 seconds. Maybe not quite what we're seeing from Inga. As they do head into lap number 4 here. But she did take down that last sprint, so obviously she's going to, from what we've seen so far, I think the strongest rider amongst Sox Watts when it does come down to these preems. Now, the reality, though, perhaps of this Sox Watts team may be that a breakaway could help them win the day today, as Kirchmer have been whittled down a little bit. I mean, also having, the kind of power you were talking about there, too. Like, their 20-minute is the better that they could get the better of these teams. If you looked at it on paper, that might be their best bet.
I think I would be surprised to see them not try Breakaway. I think that they are going to have to do that. And if they're listening, please do that, because it makes it so fun to watch.
Oh, now you're influencing the race.
I shouldn't do that, should I? I think Sox for Watts for sure is primed to do a breakaway on lap number 6, get away, use their power. Because, I mean, before you said she was a triathlete, I kind of was thinking she's got to be a triathlete, because this is how I prefer to do the sprints, which is just put down some long power effort that kind of just tires out the legs of those who can really just ramp up and accelerate really quickly. But the issue is she's done that 3 laps in a row now, or something close to it. Those Kirchmer riders, and even the Evo rider we know has a really good sprint, I don't think they're going to let that happen again. They're just going to jump straight on wheels and make sure that they make the most of their sprint. But we do see McKay here from Herd pushing the pace up. Talbot right on her wheel. I mean, if she gets away with this strategy again, I've just got to wonder what is the game plan of Kirchmer Racing here.
Yeah, here comes Inga sitting, and there's a gap already. They've been letting these gaps go, and that's the problem, is they're not they're trusting too much from the other riders here. Talbot goes again. Helen is making this happen for Sox for Watts now. McKay unable to follow the Penguins, falling off the wheel of the Unicorns now. Inga, though, trying to come across 11 watts per kilogram. Will she be able to do it here? I'm not sure. I think it's just too late again, and Talbot makes it happen. Inga for second. Curse keeping an Evo involved. Shout out to Curse, the solo rider with no teammates. On the wheel, it's going to be Jesse there, also from Casey. McKay hangs on for the Penguins. The Galapagos Penguins there, still solid ride for them. Lap 4 or 6, we've got 2 more to go. Will this stick now? We've got a lot of riders represented. Sox, Watts, and Kirchmer. Are they going to chase? Do they care whether or not there is a breakaway? Because I'm not sure Sox Watts likes this situation. I think Sox Watts are going to shut this right on down because the only 2 riders from Kirchmer are off the road.
No, do you know who's shutting it down? Herd. Yeah, Jay Hay there. They've got no Herd riders in that front pack, so they had to make that happen. But Kirchmer, they really should have made the most of that, pushed ahead there. They had 2 riders in that top group of 4. And Sox Watts only had 1. They dropped all the Herd riders. Kirchmer really needed to push that pace and make the most of it. But it looks as though they've come back together and dropped off some riders off the back. There's a very small group there. I thought there were more. Yeah, there's 2 Kirchmer riders. So I thought there were more, but yeah, that's a little opportunity lost. I think they could have gotten away there. I'm surprised they're letting Helen get away on those sprints, but when you look at her power, she's pushing up around 6 watts a kg, which is very high for this category of racing. So I think potentially it's just too hot for the other riders. But I'd be thinking here, if you've got a drafting power up, you hold on to that. As soon as Helen starts moving up the road, pushing those watts, drop that drafting power up, get right on her wheel. And then you're in that draft, you're going to get a saving with that power up, so you don't have to put in as much effort, and then open up your sprint over top of her, because I don't think Talbot has got the firepower to sprint, but she's just using that strategy of fatiguing everyone behind her, which is working really well. The others I hope to see coming around on this lap will have clued on to that and hopefully drop those drafts.
Yeah, I think the reality of the final sprint is going to be a very different situation, right? Like, it's on a flatter section. There's actually a little bit of a decrease in the gradient. I believe it gets into a negative 1% at one point. So, and then it goes back up a little bit. It's kind of this up and down, but it's not nearly as steep, obviously, as what we are seeing on the main sprint section each lap. So I think the reality of a solid watt per kilogram kick that we see from Kirchmer is going to be a little bit more of a threat than we're seeing it on this steady uphill grind. The steady uphill grind, you can set 6 watts per kilogram plus and get that break on a sprinter who might not be able to set that 5 to 6 watts per kilogram and come over the top with a solid sprint for quite as long. So it's to the advantage of somebody to just kind of set that high tempo, especially with a smaller group and not as many wheels to draft and people not able to maybe hang on. Smaller group, whittled it down. It's just going to be woman versus woman at that point, right? So I think that kind of reality is playing into Helen's favor. Now, whether or not they separate things out and string it out into the final kilometer is going to be a very different story if Inga is able to hold on to the wheels.
Yeah, and I'm just having a look here at the Evo rider. Really
Curse.
riding quite well here. Just Curse, yeah, just sitting at the back of the pack, putting in not much work. Look at that heart rate, very low heart rate, really low watts. I like this. It's always makes you got to watch that rider who's just chilling at the back, who has a very high 15-second power. She's been up there in the sprints, getting some points for her team as a solo Evo rider in that front pack. But it does look as though she's really saving the energy for that last lap, and it is great to see just that strategy of chilling out, kind of been making the others nervous, I think, not making any moves out the front, riding very, very conservatively. And I picked the winner in the men's. I'm going to pick Curse for the women's.
Ooh, big call there coming from Curse. But the whiteboards usually pay off, I think. We'll have to wait and see how it ends up playing out here. Curse now, 27.6 total kilometers for all the riders, 153 beats per minute. She does seem to be very, very cagey, like very smart about the way she's playing this. I'm watching even the cadences here. She seems to be able to play the pack and find her way around it. It's going to be Thea Curse. She's coming from, she's actually out of the United Arab Emirates. Is that right? Interesting to see. Level 35 Zwifter riding for Ivo Lacole. It does look like, looking through lots and lots of races, though, for her. I'm seeing 5 laps of results going back through May 10th of 2020. So, jumping on the platform, though, just in the last year with 206 races, actually, for this. So that is a lot of races. That's a lot of races, and she's only been on the platform for 1 year, almost to the day, when it comes to racing on the platform. Pretty awesome to see.
That's really good, and she's obviously picked up the strategies already. I mean, she's well established herself at the back of this pack, using all of the draft to her advantage. The others kind of floating around. Just don't underestimate the effort it takes to kind of stay in the middle of that group. You'll be surging a little bit. You'll be using a lot of sort of focused energy, whereas she's, nothing seems to panic her. She's just put down the steamroller there. She's seen a few power-ups being dropped out of the climb, moving up to the front. So it looks like a good sort of turn of pace there. As you said with the RPMs, Nathan, straight up there from 75 up to around 92. So just use that cadence to pop up out of that hill. Probably didn't get out of the saddle there, just upped it a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised to see her just drift to the back of the pack again, see what she does on the sprint here, but I think she'll be saving herself at the finish line.
McKay also, we did see her involved. She's going to be one of these, I'm loving the name here, Galapagos Penguins. Now, as far as the teams that have the most represented, that is going to be the herd team with the Galapagos Penguins and then the Sox for Watts. So Unicorns versus the Penguins at this point for the number of riders in this front group. If we think about that at this point, because it is going to be a point for who wins on the day, and stacking that top 5, they're really in a good position here to grab a ton of points, the herd team, as well as the Sox for Watts team. And they may be thinking a lot about that, even if... And the other thing is they can bring back just about anything that goes up the road, too, and getting as many as they possibly can into that top 5. Even if you don't win on the day, you can have a massive impact on the points at the end of the day. If you're second, third, and fourth, though, right? If you all come to the line second, third, and fourth, you give up first and second, you still end up with more points than the first and second team, right? So there is an opportunity here for the Penguins, even though we haven't seen them involved very much in the sprints and really taking down the points as we've seen from Kirchner and Sox for Watts. They still have the strength and numbers and being a pack of Penguins out here, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting. And then again, I saw the Aero power up being dropped almost. I don't know if that was a mistake or ditching it before this line, but yeah, Aero is the faster one to use today, I do think. Unless you're coming from sort of that mid-pack, then that drafting one is really good. But we saw Talbot there dropping the draft. She doesn't need that, because if she goes off the front again, this rider looks like they were sort of doing a little, is that an attack from Quackus there? I just saw maybe a little pretend sprint there. Maybe got confused around the sprint banner. But maybe. And then you've got Jessie Sandra here from Kirchner and BZR there, sort of leading off the front. I don't think they're going to let Helen take this time around, although we will start to see Helen's watts go up, I do think. I mean, it's a strategy that's worked for her. She'll start pushing it up, but it's massively staying together now. Little Herd Rider just dropped back there a touch, but yeah, not seeing Sox for Watts pushing ahead like they have done previously, and that's a good sign for the other sprinters. Maybe they're getting tired.
Talbot setting up again, though, moving her way to the front. Now 3.4. Is she reserving a little something, waiting for a moment? She's in the perfect position again. BZR here with Arkins now 3.9 to the front. Now lap number 5 of 6. Second to last sprint out here. Only 2 more opportunities to grab any kind of points. Inga, now I think she's starting to learn she has to follow wheels from third or fourth, wheel. Not sitting back so far. I don't think she's going to let that gap go again. I think she's kind of figured out the situation and what the tactic has been coming from Helen Talbot to try and break things early. It looks like Talbot's sitting in a little bit more this time around. I have a feeling that Sox Watts are reserving something for the final lap to try and get away rather than take these. They'll try and take as many as they can here, but I think the reality of Jessie and Inga here, it may be a little bit too much from Kirchner. Here comes the Aero power up early, actually, from Jessie. Kirchner, the Bees now 176 here, beats Pruitt 77 now. 5.6. Talbot looking to follow. It looks like Inga sitting on the wheel. That's most likely going to be the 1, 2, 3 here. But Arkin here from BZR with an Aero power up. Maybe a little bit more of an upset coming from them later on in the race. Does she have that extra power at the back end of the race? More endurance to the legs? But no. Talbot 5.7. Look at the difference here. That steamroller is giving a little bit of extra here. Arkin trying to come through. Here comes Inga now, 9, 10 watts per kilogram, waiting for the moment. Inga might even steal it from her teammate. She's coming on fast. No, Jesse's going to take it 1, 2.
1, 2.
Talbot, though, for third still holding on. But Kirchner, they have been they're just raking up the points here. They just keep on bringing them all in, it looks like. On the day, I think they've been the most successful.
Yeah, that's I'm starting to get excited just from seeing Sox Watts there not push that pace massively. But looking at that gap, I was thinking maybe it's because they're going to do a sort of team tactic, but I think actually maybe they had teammates dropping off. Yeah, and I think potentially on Discord they were saying, don't go too hard, Helen, because we're really falling off the back here, because her effort was nowhere near what we've seen in some of the other laps, and I think she realised she needs her teammates with her. They were in a dangerous position last time where they had the 2 Kirchmers and only Helen in that front group, and if Kirchner had decided to attack, that would have been bad news for Sox for Watts. So I think potentially she was under team orders there just to chill out, make sure they got their other riders up, because she's probably got the power to pull them up as well if needed. But yeah, definitely team orders there.
Yeah, we spoke about this earlier. Was it a situation where Sox for Watts were sitting in, biding their time, or was it a situation that Sox for Watts were hurting and just making sure that they got as many riders into the top 10 as they possibly can at the end of the day? And I think it's the second situation is what we saw there in that climb over the top. I'm not sure that the power is really there to try and get away, that this is a more of a situation lap 5 of 6 now where they're like, let's just try and get as many into the top 5 if we can, as Helen really is their standout rider out there today. Bryant almost falling off there, as we could see just a moment ago. We also saw, let me see who else is in here from Sox for Watts. Is it going to be Jules here as well? Jules had a little bit better time of it looked like. Was maybe a rider who was sitting on wheels a little bit more and rolling through. She is on quite the sprinter's bike here. She's on the most expensive bike in Zwift, actually. This is a real deal Zwifter. Look at the setup.
Great setup.
Is this your, on the day?
No,
look at the gloves. Everything's there. I don't know what you could say here. She's even got the visor. I know you like the headband a little bit more, but with the accent on it though, it couldn't get much more. Look at the visor's accent even. Come on. Purple socks though? Are we gonna get it for the purple socks? I don't know.
I don't actually mind the purple socks because they kind of match that wheel. Her glove has a pink accent instead of the purple. It would quite match, but everyone must know by now my feelings on the visor.
Is that what is this? Does that do it? Is that a 9 out of 10 because of that or something? Like, what are we doing here? 8?
That setup there for me is a 4. That visor has lost so many points.
Oh my gosh. What? I'm giving at least an 8.5 out of 10, and the visor bumps it by 2 at least. This is the coolest look I've seen all day. I think this is, it's Arrow as AF as well. I think the hashtag is perfect.
I do like that hashtag. That is awesome. But that is why the Socks for Watts kit is sitting there in one of my top 4 kits thus far on the Fashion Awards. So they're doing very well with their overall kit. But that look for me, it's just a little bit too motley. And the visor always just lowers the point so much. I might have actually featured Jules on the video I did last season on the fashion faux pas in Zwift. So yeah, shout out to Jules because I think she could have actually been the rider that I highlighted with the braids there and the visor.
Heck yeah, there we go. Jules coming out of the UK. See if we can get some information to load up. We've got like a million, a little bit of exaggeration, but events going on all at once out on Zwift around this time on a Tuesday. So things are pretty wild over on Zwift Power. Hans Peter Kurz saying, always good entertainment and fun with the fashion. It's good to see you there, Hans Peter Kurz. We do see you in chat. If you're hanging out in chat, we're heading into the last lap. We're on lap 5 of 6 right now. Number 6 is about to start. We've got 11 riders, I believe, still involved at the front end of this race. It's Socks for Watts with 3 riders involved still. Herd still with the Galapagos Penguins with 3 riders involved as well. So for who has made this front group in the B category, it is going to be Jessica Rotter, Zoe McKay, Thea Kurz, Inga Jadik. It's going to be Jay Taylor from the Herd team as well. Sandra Pennish for the BZR Bullets too. Elian Arkins, Katya Steele, and then Joke Brain. Donna Watts, I believe, is off the back at this point. Joke Brain and Donna Watts, I believe, not quite involved still. That's the situation, though, I think that we have right now as it stands. Maybe a couple of riders here missing from my list, though. I don't think I named off 11 riders there. So looking at Zwift Power, it is struggling, I think, a little bit here with the amount of events that are coming on through. But solid ride here from the entirety. Maybe Jessica Rotter, I think, is actually maybe off the back here. So I'm calling out names, and I'm like, are they all there? No.
Yeah, I was checking Zwift Power before. It is a bit mixed up at the.
It is a little mixed up on the live. Yeah, a little bit mixed up on the live. Yeah. Apologies on that, everybody. Just started naming off names. Unless Rotter's actually off the front, but I do not believe. Like, did we miss a breakaway that she just kind of rode away? No, I don't
think so. No, I definitely didn't miss a breakaway. But I did just want to note, I saw a comment come in from one of the riders, Asphalt Junkie, so I'm not sure actually which rider it is, on that SOW team that we saw take the overall win across the line in the men's race that we watched previously. Just commenting that they actually found that final sprint really hard, having those 6 hills that they've had to deal with for the majority of this race. So hills leading into that sprint really actually apparently demos the legs a lot more than you would think. So that's why you might see the sprint a little bit conservative, because people are just a lot more tired than I'm probably giving them credit for with some of those efforts up on that hill. As we've seen Helen, pushing up that 6 watts a kg up those climbs. I mean, that is going to really start to destroy the legs. But that is why I'm going for Curse for this final sprint, because she's not really contesting though. She's kind of sitting in the pack, hoping that'll bring it back together, relaxing at the back of this pack for the majority of the rest of the race, not hitting much more than 150 beats a minute. So yeah, I think she's ridden it pretty smart. But yeah, apparently just very tired on the legs. SOW's come through and said on the chat.
And looking through, see if we can get some information there on Jules, as she's been a rider that we've wanted to feature. That's gonna be Julia Hargreaves, I believe, coming from that Socks for Watts team, and the rider with, I think, does she win the Fashion Police at least for this front group, or is that the visor just too much? I mean, it's just,
I'll give her the most outstanding look. So we've commented on it. We can see it in the pack. It stands out. So yes, the most standout look. The most put together look, not so much, but standout. Yes, I'll give you that, Nathan. She stands out for sure.
Stands out. There we go. Bryant, no, this is actually going to be Quokka's. Now, this is what I was talking about. A last lap attack to try and break KC. I think this is a good move here coming from her. They've got 3 riders. They've got one who can maybe make something happen here. Quokka's going. It's going to be the Penguins waddling off the front here at this point. Is it going to be enough? Is it going to be more than a waddle? Is going to be the question, I think. As Quokka's here, solid effort. And she does have a gap. It is 2 seconds, but backs off, interesting enough. Is there just not enough in the legs? Because not going to continue on with this one, it looks like, as it does get shut right on down. Will be a counterattack come over the top with Hay, her teammate. Nope, it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
I think the strategy that might play out in this coming into the final lap is we've seen twice now Kirchmar have 2 riders going across the line very near the front and then breaking the pack behind them. If I was them, I'd take that little gap they get, and if they've got any energy left, it's just to push that and try and make the break and force a breakaway. So that's what potentially I could see playing out on this. Depends how tired everyone is. I mean, obviously, it's easy to sit here watching and say that that's what should be done, but that takes a lot of effort to try and make a break stick after a sprint and after a climb. So that's the only thing I kind of see working here. I think Helen, unless she goes for a complete solo breakaway, which she could, we see her pushing to the front again. Nice little battle here between her and Jessie from Kirchmar. But the other Socks Watts riders, they're drifting to the back now. You can see, I just don't think they've got the power to stay with her. So Helen might be a solo effort. That's what we could see as well.
Yeah, solo effort may be the way to go here. Jessie, again, leading things out. Inga, it does look like sitting in 3rd or 4th wheel. I'm not sure it's going to be the timing at this point, though, is going to be on. This is lap 6 of the women's race out on the Champs Elysees here. Inga maybe sitting well, actually. I thought we were on already the second kick. Talbot trying to hold on 5-7 now. I think there was not enough here in the tank here for Jessie. As Talbot comes across here, she's got an aero power up. She's got a gap. It's 2 seconds. Inga. Yeah. Where is she? This is a breakaway situation, I think. There is enough gap at this point because I'm not sure anybody's coming over the cap. It does look like...
Oh, there's Inga. She's sprinting.
Points. Curse now looking to come across. This is a danger moment, though, because Helen does have the power to stay away, I think, if the rest of the riders start sitting up and looking at each other.
Oh, dropping off a little. So she's not going to enforce that break. She dropped off a touch there. This group of 4, though, that's coming. Look who's there. Curse, my pick for the win. Straight onto the wheels there of Jessie from Kirchmar, now riding up to Inga.
She can follow real easily, too, to be honest. Like, it does look like she came right on up, no problem. 181 beats per minute, though, so it isn't like it was a walk in the park, but she is there.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, she's looking around her now going... Yep, I got on some wheels there, but I kind of relaxed. She didn't look like she panicked, but Socks for Watts have an issue now if Kirchmar start pushing the pace because their 2 riders are really yo-yoing off the back here. And again, Kirchmar, I just would have thought that would have been the perfect time to keep pushing. Maybe the herd rider understands that. You look at, is it Hay there? Just pushing the pace a bit, but it looks like the other 2 Socks for Watts riders back on course, back with that group. Aero power up being dropped here, though. Is that a mistake?
That's an attack. No, that's a real attack.
No,
4-7.
attack.
Yep.
Perfect. That is great. Sandra there from BZR. Look, this could work. We've seen it work before. Coming into this downhill, use the momentum. It's a split pack behind. Talbot's, looks like Talbot was chasing him. It might be Bryant there. Talbot's back in the pack. So come on, Sandra. Go for it. Go for that solo breakaway win. I always love seeing these work.
4-8. This is huge. Jesse now 8 watts per kilogram, 7 watts per kilogram. And you know what Jesse's trying to do? She's trying to up the pace at the front. She's trying to make it as fast as she possibly can at the front with those little bursts. Inga now as well. Kirchner is not... They are a team that knows what they're doing. They can see that there's a little bit of a gap behind them as well. They could go across here. Sox for Watts do have 2 teammates as well. Bryant is there. Can Bryant get back on turns? Because I think these riders who are trying to get with this are struggling at this point. Curse is out of this now. That's a danger woman who is out of the situation. Sandra Penders has got 5 seconds over that group, 3 seconds over the chase now at this point. This is breaking everything apart. BZR making this exciting and happening now at this point on the race. Bryant backing off at 2.9 on the front. The chase isn't necessarily pushing on now. Penders has got a gap. Sandra Penders might make this happen.
Yeah, I think she's going to make it happen because you look at the group behind, they're just looking at each other. It's the 2 Sox Watts, it's the 2 Kirchner. They only care about each other. That group's going to come back together behind. They're about to end the momentum of this downhill. If Sandra can just solidify this and stick... Look at what the watts are that people are holding behind now that they're off that downhill.
Oh, she really has to continue.
A little bit higher.
She can't back off. She cannot back off now. She has to believe.
Going.
You have to believe at this point, but Curse to the front now. Now, if this gets caught, the question is, what will Arkins do? Arkins is sitting in here. This is that 1% little uphill gradient. Will they push on? It does look like she's going to get caught here. Arkins is sitting in third wheel. Perfectly positioned to counter, perhaps. 2.7. She looks to back it off. Look at how she backs it off, though. 40 kilometers per hour. It looks like Sandra's backed off. 37. Not going to happen. I thought it might stick.
Gutting.
Oh, so close.
Such a great move.
It was a good
Such a great move, but obviously couldn't keep up that power, unfortunately. Do you see who went to the front there and pulled up a little bit? Curse there from Evo. Panicked a little bit. You can see definitely the motivation there is for her to take the overall win. What else would she do? She's the only rider from Evo in that front group. She's got to get max points, and you just saw that little bit of panic. First panic I've seen creeping in from Curse, coming in to catch up to that breakaway. No 1-2 attack off the front that we're seeing as yet. So looks like this group will take it to the line, and we're going to have a battle between these teams for the sprint. I think it's Curse. Nathan, who are you gunning for?
I don't know. I mean, I actually haven't looked at the data, on paper. I haven't looked on paper the comparison between Inga and Curse. Curse, I mean, obviously not taking a whole lot of the sprints. We have seen her, though, in that third spot. Has she opened it up completely is going to be the question, right? Or has she held that nitrous oxide, just put the pedal to the metal, but not hit the button, really, So we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. Inga has just been so strong and consistent with that 11, 12 watt per kilogram kick. We didn't see her go full gas in the last sprint before. So the consistency from Inga to the line, well, I'm not sure. I'm going to go with Inga. I'm going to play some, play the devil's advocate a little bit here because Curse, I think it's a great call, especially with how she's been sitting in. We're even seeing in chat here as well, coming in from Phil V is saying, come on, Evo Thea, cheering on. Obviously some fans here for Evo saying that Thea was definitely gambling on her sprint. And I do think that there was a little bit of a gamble to not make the chase, allow the other riders to pull things together. 143 beats per minute too. You got a good point. I have a feeling perhaps she has definitely been playing her cards well because at 159 here, Inga's most likely burned a lot more of that energy in the legs.
Yeah, and we haven't talked about Talbot though from Sox for Watts yet. So what's her strategy going to be here? Because she must know now that she doesn't have the sprint compared to these other two, to Curse and the Kirchner rider, but Inga. But she's got obviously that power advantage over that longer period of time. She's going to have to attack around about here. And we see her pulling is that her pulling that drafting power up just there? That's an early use of the power up.
That's going to be Bryant,
if it is. Bryant, okay. So she's obviously struggling. So I don't think she'll be in the mix there. You don't want to be dropping the power-ups at this point unless you're really struggling. Someone's going off the front. Arkins. Oh, little attack, but I think it'll be brought back. But that's a definite attack. Look at who's on the front there chasing it down. Talbot up to 5.6. But I think everyone's got her number now. Everyone knows that she's got that high power. They're just going to jump on her wheel. And I think it is going to end up being the sprinters who come. They're dropping off some of their own riders, Sox Watts. I think there might be game over there. And a herd rider, Jay Hay, dropping off with Bryant. So yeah, that's that was a bit of a sting in the legs for these two. They're obviously at the rivet, just dropped off, but back together again. This is coming into the last kilometer, less than that to go. Talbot, keeping an eye on her. She's got to open up something right about now. If she wants to see our producer, see our event organizer there.
Yeah, our event organizer came through. Apologies on that one. You can see for just a moment the background there, how things are playing out here. Jesse now, KC now, as you can see, pushing on through. It's the 4.4 watts per kilogram now as he's got Jules now to the front. Here comes McKay. And it's going to be the BZR Cats too now. Arkin, the only one left for them. Sox for Watts there. Bryant now leading things out a little bit here. It's so touch and go here at this point because it's a needles. You're threading the needle here at this point about when you actually go here. Here comes McKay to the front. A little bit of it. That might have been a fake 12 watts per kilogram early kick. You were spot on. I mean, it's gone. It's
absolute
Inga?
winner.
No, it's gone. It's absolutely gone.
No, she's got it. She's got it. Just maybe relax. I don't even think she used a power up. Did she?
No,
wow.
Inga. Oh, BZR Arkins. Did Arkins do it? That's the question.
Arkins.
That's the question. What happened there with Arkins? Getting the little bit of extra kick at the end there. I thought Arkins was in trouble, but perhaps that was the situation. We saw Curse. This was the kick coming in from Curse now, as you can see. 13, I think we saw 12 watts per kilogram at one point there. What a kick here coming in from Curse. She gets the immediate gap on the replay right here.
No power up.
No, not even a power up. I mean, nope. Inga, and I definitely, we saw the chatter coming in through here. It was a gamble on the sprint. Inga there, as you can see.
Oh, that's not a gamble. She knew.
No, you're right.
Chips on the table.
Right. Yeah. And here's Inga trying to hold on. I'm not sure Inga was able to. I think Arkin got her.
No, I think it did. I mean, photo finish for sure. But yeah, I mean, herd rider there. McKay, I believe, in third, and Talbot still very fourth. Sorry, it's still very respectable. Talbot looks like in fifth. She would have mopped up a lot of points from today.
Yeah, I mean, that looks like Arkin to me. We'll have to wait and see for the back-end API. But that does look like Arkin. So, solid result there coming on.
Here we
go. I'm still loving the WTRL sneak in there.
Martin dropping it. He looked very focused.
He was very, very focused. He's looking good. So coming on, let's. That was quite the race there across the board for all the men's B in the South Division 1. We were in South EMEA South Division 1, and then the women's Division 3 B is what we were able to cover out there today. It was Sox for Watts versus Kirchmer for most of the sprints out there. Evo, I thought they were off from the get-go there in the women's race. I was like, they had riders dropped right away. Where is everybody? But Curse, they are able to really hold things together for Evo out there today. Amazing job.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say that's 2 for 2. Picked the men's, picked the
women's. Oh, look at oh my goodness. I'm going to be baking all day of all week for Anna. I'm going to be baking all week, and we'll get her the best.
Yeah, just send them over to New Zealand.
Yeah, it'll be a big package of humble pie right her way.
That was great, though. That was great. Yeah, I loved those races. It was some really good sprints there at the end, but cool tactics that people tried. You saw that early attack from that BZR rider in the women's race. You saw just the men's race as well with that Scottish team trying to do the lead out with their 4-man lead out coming into that last 600 meters. So, yeah, people are playing around now. They're putting out some cool stuff. Really great things to see. It's not just all a blob to the line. And, yeah, awesome. Great for commentating, and it makes it super exciting.
Let's take a quick look here at the results for the men's and the women's racing. We'll look at all of the categories in this division that we were covering out here today. In the men's results, whoa, that is not the scene we're looking for. Let's go ahead and cut right on over to this one. And here we go. This is going to be it. It's M. Johansson there from SC Mirror there for the men's Division 1A, 56.54. D. David there, only 0.05 seconds. Looks like it was a solid little sprint to the line for the top 10 there. Second place does go to Fuji XO there for D. David. D. A. Olsen for SC Mirror for third. It's going to be GFTBE there with P. Van Latham there for fourth. L. Vossen, the Zwift kids there for fifth. W. Audi there for Coalition Aurora. Actually 3 in a row for this Coalition Aurora. It's going to be S. Zoschke. They're followed up by B. Vral. And then it's Le Forestier in ninth. And W. Dixon. That's the situation for the Division 1As for the top 10 for the sprint to the line across the finish line. Now, in the B category, are they still out on course or not racing?
They've got 6 laps, yeah.
6 laps in the men's.
So looking at the C's, there was A. Cress here from Kirchmar Bumblebees, Ramgard from DZR Fast and Fun, one of the best kits I've seen out there. Nyson, also from Fast and Fun, really good result there, a 2-3. Adams from RMA CC 45 CDO. Soika from Kirchmar Bumblebees. Then we've got 2 Cryogen riders in 6th and 7th, Bernatech and Rowe. Cooper from Angry Birds, Hayes from Zwift Scotland, and Wayra rounding out in 10th from DZR Fast and Fun.
Yeah, we'll bring in the Bs because that's actually what we covered. So interesting enough, they're definitely finished out already there. So we'll see if we can bring that in. There was the Bs were missing also from the Apex. Maybe we're having a data issue on the back end there. In the D category, though, it is going to be Gettering there for Adam Racing Team Fusion. Jay Crevo there coming in from Two Guys Monchique. It's going to be Cuthbertson there for the BRT. Jokona's there in third. And then Thelu there, RAB Haydux there in fourth. Morgado there, Two Guys Monchique also in fifth place. And Swan RAB Haydux. Then D Jordan for Adam Racing Team Fusion. M Dave for RAB Haydux. Lots of RAB Haydux in there, as well as the Draconas there for BRT2 coming on through for 9th and 10th. Let's just go ahead and take a look at the women's results, and then we'll jump back in with the men's Bs, because that's definitely something that we want to be checking out. But in the women's EMEA Division 3A, it was Langham at the top there, Anna.
Yeah, so the team Electric Spirit.co Chanticleer taking it out. It's Psycho, Femmes Fort, powered by Stages in second. Then 2 ladies from Japan, Endo and Hiroko, in third and fourth from the Jet Ladies Racing Team. Daffin in fifth from Femme Fort. Shibata from Jet as well. Jet's done very well there. Lutfi from Revo Arrows in seventh. Rickon in eighth from Rave, B. Ward from the Revo Arrows in 9th, and Pearson from Bristol Storm representing her team, top 10.
And yeah, so for some reason, I think we're just missing B category. It's trying to pull them so the results of the race we covered, I think, are struggling out there. Or at least we got the results from the other. We saw it on screen, so we saw what happened. So there we go. The BRT Wildcats, though, 47-37 for Peniels in the C category. DeVos there for Belgian Zwift Riders Bullets, 1 there in second. D Pope there for WTO Drafting Dinos UKC 1 in third. Texira, I'm going to say there for TVT Furious. They're coming on through for fourth. Kohlberg for Alien Diosas there in fifth. C. Davies there. The Drafting Dinos in sixth place. Moens there for the Belgian Zwift Riders Bullets, 1 in seventh. Fry, TVT Furious. And it's going to be B. Higgs there for Alien Diosas. And Bella V2. It's S. Hughes riding for Bella V2 in 10th place. Is there a D category? I do not believe there is a D category in this division. So we are looking for the B results. Apologies, everybody. We're going to go ahead and let you guys head on over to WTRL.racing. I think things are super, super busy right now with the amount of events. I was being told data collection is failing a little bit right now, so we're just going to let that sit for now as a heads up as to why this you know, a good problem to have, you know, Dave says this a lot whenever this is a good, you know, it's a good problem to have. 11,286 unique riders, 39,278 sign-ons with results, and excludes all current unfinished and unstarted races. So races. So that is a lot of riders on the day. I mean, absolutely awesome to see. So if you missed the broadcast from this morning, it was really exciting. Make sure to go back and check that out. The APAC. Anna did an amazing job with Kate. It was really, really exciting to watch. We just covered the EMEA South Division 1B men and the Division 3B women. You can go back and watch replay. We were live on Twitch, Facebook, as well as YouTube. You can catch all our VODs, our playlists of the WTRL TTT, the Zwift Racing League, Season 1, 2, and 3. They're all up on our YouTube channel. I did see a question coming through about who we are covering later in the day for the Americas East and the West. I'll be on with Dave for the East. Kate will be on with Dave for the West. For those races, you can actually go through, and all of the races are scheduled on the Zwift Community Live YouTube right now, and you can see in the title what categories are going to be covered. It's in the title itself, so you can go ahead and mark that. Get a reminder set if it is your category you want to watch or a friend of yours is in that. Go ahead and check that out. If you haven't done so already, on your favorite platform to watch the streaming or the VODs, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. You can know anytime that we are live. For all results, head on over to WTRL.racing. Anna, are you doing anything else with this today, or are you done for the day? You got some more STPC stuff going on, or what's happening? Are you going to go get some sleep? I know you've been a little under the weather, so get well. I think, chat, wish Anna some good well.
I was not partying on the Champs-Elysees last night. I had a bit of a cold, so hence why I'm sounding very husky. But I am attempting to get out there in the USA East B category a little later. For
Are you really?
Oh,
my goodness.
Yeah. Well, it will probably be
what
a very
a trooper.
Horrific.
What a trooper.
Horrific race.
Well, I mean,
So
you're probably just going to get everything out of the lungs, right?
Exactly. I mean, all points matter for the team. So I said to them, you know, I'll turn up. I'll get something, right? You get something for finishing. So there we go.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good, Anna. Good luck tonight. Everybody wish Anna some good luck tonight as well as get well. And we appreciate everybody hanging out with us. As always, great job to all of the racers out there. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll see you later tonight for America's East and America's West. As always, right on.